Okay, I've taken my shortbread out of the oven, and I've also got my raspberry coulis, which hopefully yours is looking something like that. It's a bit of a dark pan, but basically a big raspberry pan of mush. But it tastes absolutely fantastic. The smell of mint whilst that was bubbling away is great. So first thing we need to do is, using our cutters, is just to cut two little round shapes of shortbread from the shortbread. So just as one, and then two. And you can just leave these and pop them aside, and we can get on and melt the chocolate. So just put these aside. And with the chocolate, hopefully you've got yours in a bowl like this. I'll just bring over my water, just so that you can see how much water I've got in. Don't know whether you can catch that. It's about a good inch of water, and it'll just be barely simmering. So we're going to sit the pan, the glass bowl on top of the pan, on the hob, just on like a barely lit hob, and we can just leave that in the background whilst we get on with the coulis. Okay. So I'm using one of these mini choppers. But if you're just using your normal food processor, whatever you're using will be absolutely fine. So just empty the contents of your pan into your blender, and all we're going to do, quite simply, is blend this away, and then we're going to pop it back into the pan. Right, so we can just pop the lid on. Easier said than done. There we go. Pop the lid on and just give it a blitz so it's all blended together. Ready, go! Okay, hopefully you've stopped as well, and yours is looking something like this. Just get rid of the blade, and what we need to do now is just pop this down and bring in my sieve. We're going to just pass it through a sieve back into the pan that it was in. So I'll use a sieve and a wooden spoon. So just pour the mixture from the blender into the sieve, and then we'll just use the spoon just to press it through. And it'll just stop the seeds from coming through in the coulis. Just make it a bit posher. Okay. Such a fresh smell, raspberry and mint, absolutely heavenly. And it just, the addition of this is white chocolate mousse is so super sweet, and this just sort of counteracts it slightly and cuts through everything. And it looks fantastic as well, which always helps, especially if you're cooking for somebody special. Right, push this through, and then just on the other side, just on the underside, just scrape away all the bits, and I'll just get rid of my sieve, and you should be left with a nice thick but smooth raspberry coulis. Okay, and we can just leave this aside. You can refrigerate it if you want, hot or cold, doesn't matter. I normally serve it at room temperature, so I'm just going to leave this aside, and I'll just bring over my chocolate just so you can see how that's going. It's just starting to melt together, so I'm just with my spatula, I'm just going to give it just a little move together, and then pop it back on the heat, and we can get on and whisk everything else. So we've got our bowl, move this out of the way. We need to empty, do one egg white into the bowl. So there we go, not the yolk. Hopefully this will work. Just empty the white. Easy way to do it, just to pour it between the two halves of the shell. like that. We don't want the yolk, so we can set that aside. And then add in our double cream, straight in, and then we're going to give this a good whisk together. How great a recipe can this be, because it's got chocolate and double cream in it. That sounds good to me. And all we're going to whisk is this together so that it massively increases in volume, but it won't go stiff peaks or anything like that because it's only the one egg white. So if you've got your whisk ready, pop it in and go. Okay, so that's done, and you see it's nice and thick, double cream and the egg white, and we can bring in our chocolate now. And see, it should be just about 90% melted. There should still be, you'll be able to see some of the chunks, but if we give this a nice little stir together, now the heat from everything should just melt the final little bits. And all we're going to do next is we're going to add a lump of the cream and egg white into the chocolate, and then all of the chocolate back into the egg whites. It'll make sense when you see it in a second. There we go. Got the white chocolate, nice and glossy. So we're just going to take just a spoonful, I'm using a spatula, of the cream and egg, and pop that into the chocolate and give that just a nice stir together. I mean, we're not folding as such, it's not like we're making a souffle, but you don't want to, we have been whisking air into the cream, so you don't want to whisk it now and knock all that air out of it. There we go. Like this, and now we're going to swap and pop the chocolate into the, and do this so you can see it, chocolate into the cream mix. Just do it half at a time, and then give that a nice little sort of foldy stir in, just to get it all incorporated, but just doing it nice and gently. This is a dessert that requires a little bit of love. There we go. Now the rest of the melted chocolate, and just stir that in. There we go. Now get rid of my bowl and bring back in the shortbread and your lined baking tray. So what we want to do here is hopefully you've still got your shortbread in the cutters, and yeah, as you can see there's a little bit extra for you to eat away. We're just going to take using a fish slice, just going to lift up the rings, which if you can see still got the shortbread in the bottom, and pop them onto the lined baking tray. Then all we're going to do, nice and simply, is just put the mousse on top. Okay. Now this is the difficult bit. I'm just going to grab a spoon. If your pouring skills are very good, then you might be able to pour this in, but I find that it's easier just to do it with a spoon. But basically we're just going to add the white chocolate mousse into the cooking rings. Go. And because it's nice and melted, it won't. There won't be any gaps in it. It'll all melt, it'll all go down to the bottom absolutely perfectly, so that when it's set it'll just look brilliant. There we go. A bit more in this. So that's it set. So all you need to do now is just find some room in your freezer and pop this in your freezer for half an hour, and then when you come back we'll be ready just to serve up and make everything look really pretty. So half an hour in the freezer.